What is going on, FA Nation? Jonathan Pemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Playbook Live Show. It is Friday, and we have a 13-game slate that turns into a 12-game main slate with the Toronto-Baltimore game getting rained out here due to weather. We may also have another game possibly canceled later on today as well. Some weather in San Francisco, New York. We'll see if that game goes off, if it gets delayed, if it gets postponed, if it starts and then gets delayed. Going to be some weather up the East Coast here this weekend. So those are two games, one already impacted and then one that we are waiting to see if it will be impacted or not. Obviously, the Yankees, some big names that could have been rostered in that game. Aaron Judge, notably, would have left on the mound there. But still plenty of action to talk about, including two of our favorite games that we highlighted on the preview show. So we appreciate all of you guys who are out there tuning in with us here today as we go over all the official lineups, news, notes, weather, and all that good stuff to build a lineup for today's main slate.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. You excited?
That is Friday, yeah. I'm excited that it's Friday, yes.
Sure. I mean, the sports calendar doesn't end, so not really the end of the work week here.
Yeah, no. I'm excited. It's a fun slate. You and I were kind of like, whoa, 13 games when we opened the slate last night, like, 13 games.
Yeah.
That's the biggest show we've had to date. I think probably the biggest slate so far. I always enjoy, like, we don't have Coors, we have Coors Light and maybe Coors Junior. Is this like how SpongeBob had like Weenie Hut Junior, Weenie Hut Junior?
I didn't watch it. I was too old for SpongeBob.
Okay, well, SpongeBob had like a iteration of like of Weenie Hut.
Okay.
And it was like Weenie Hut Junior, Weenie Hut Junior. This is like kind of we have Coors Light. What else is like another iteration of Coors, I guess. But yeah, it's an interesting slate. Some solid pitching, great offenses. Some offenses I think I'm a little more into today than I was when we did the pre-show. We also have David Festa was added to the player pool, and we have a new starting pitcher in Miami. So there's a lot to talk about.
We do have a new starting pitcher in Miami. Yes, that is definitely true. We'll get into today's slate. We weren't wrong on the top owner pitcher for the day. We projected Nick Pivetta to be that guy, $9,100 home against Colorado. But Jacob deGrom is right there basically with him. And we kind of talked about, deGrom first start looked good. Second start looked shaky. Definitely not deGrom-like that we're used to seeing. Also continues to have some level of a pitch count. Maybe that gets slightly bumped up here today. But at $9,500 against Seattle, you were more talking in potentially going Yamamoto. Obviously a tough matchup against Chicago, but one that he already passed when they had the opening series there in Japan. He is getting significantly less ownership than those top two guys. Is it still a Yamamoto pivot for you from deGrom, or now are you more interested in the chalky play there?
I think today's ownership tells you a lot about today's pitching slate. Nobody knows what to do after Nick Pivetta. I think, like you said, we identified that Nick Pivetta was going to be the chalk. And with so many games, it looks like people are just like, yeah, I'm just going to take random shots on SP2s all across the board. I do think that there's clearly a pivot going from deGrom to Yamamoto. I understand a lot of what people are seeing in deGrom. One, it's the best ballpark to pitch in across Major League Baseball against an anemic offense. The pitch count was up last game, and it's a situation where, yeah, he hasn't looked great, and the numbers kind of bear that out too. He hasn't, even like the peripheral numbers don't suggest that he has been unlucky the first couple games, or especially the last game. But it's obviously a massive park upgrade just in general. So I get it. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto has looked every bit the part that made him the highest paid pitcher in baseball last year, or one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball, because he strikes people out and he keeps the ball in the yard, keeps the ball on the ground. That's what he's done since last year in his limited time, pitching before a significant injury shut him down for a lot of the year. And he's done that in his first 3 starts. He has 4 fly ball outs compared to 26 ground ball outs. And he struck out 19 batters over his first 15 or 16 innings. So, yeah, I do think there's a pretty good leverage point. I understand the Cubs offense has been awesome. You're not going to hear anything from me about how they walk a lot. They don't strike out a lot. They've been super powerful. But I've said it to you a couple times on the show. Like, one, we as someone who plays exclusively tournaments, I always typically will lean leverage. Not always, but in a situation where I just like a pitcher and I'm looking for leverage, this is one of the spots. Yamamoto's pitch count is obviously much higher than DeGrom's and probably will stay that way in this game. And I just think right now in their 2 respective paths, he's the better pitcher, right? So
yeah, potentially.
I'm just saying right now. Right now, I don't think that's even like a...
Yeah, DeGrom looked like DeGrom against the Red Sox, but we've seen the Red Sox now get basically shut down by every team that wasn't the Cardinals pitching at this point. So, yeah, very, very possible that, he just ran into a weak lineup then. And I'm with you. I mean, again, DeGrom's 35%, and for 50% less ownership, you have Yamamoto here. So I'm certainly interested in that. I will say first ownership run this morning, we did have the Sean Newcomb, like 18%. I was like, they did it. They just went right to him and they plugged in the value play against the White Sox. That's now obviously gone down to around 10%. But still, like you said, once you get past, those top 2 guys, whether you're making that decision, I'm pitching Pivetta or I'm pitching DeGrom today, it seems like, there's a lot of uncertainty. Bryce Miller, Robbie Ray, seems like game may not be the best spot to start a starting pitcher in today. Taj Bradley at almost 15%, and then Yamamoto's actually down now to 12%. The other guy that I said I liked on the morning show was Reese Olson. He's $7,100. He's only around 10% tonight. So, I do think there's going to be a chance where you pick the right SP2, and that's going to give you a big leverage over the rest of the field here today.
Do you think is he your favorite SP2?
Reese?
Yeah.
I like the matchup, obviously. Again, I think Detroit's in a good spot here. My favorite SP2, he might be. I go back and forth. It'll be him. We had Keith in here saying he liked Mitchell Parker. I also like Mitchell Parker today against Miami at $7,900. But Reese Olson's better than a $7,100 pitcher, in my opinion. I'd be willing to give him a look at $7,100.
I agree. And Minnesota's offense has been super middling. They're not walking. They're not really striking out, but they're also not really hitting for any power either.
Yeah.
So I do like. I'm in agreement with you with the Reese Olson point. I like Mitchell Parker. There's been a little luck attached to him this year. He has definitely benefited from some good batted ball stuff.
Yeah.
Going his way. So that's where I'm a little hesitant to go there. A little less bullish than I was. I'm still as bullish on Erod as I was last night. For anyone that listened to the pre-show, I'm playing an unowned Eduardo Rodriguez. I think
minus 160 on the money line is Arizona tonight as well. I actually said that Detroit was the favorite. That's since moved. Detroit's now even money on the road. Minnesota's now to a minus 120 home favorite. So that line is shifted a little bit more in the Minnesota direction there as well.
Ooh, maybe that's because they heard there's a festival going on in Minnesota tonight. But yeah, I mean, I think Erod, minus the ballpark, really is in a spot where you look at this team since last year, it's something that a point of contention for us, like all of last year. Milwaukee can hit lefties, and they arguably had more thump in their lineup last year if you just factor in the Willy Adames departure, right? And they didn't really address that with anything. They just moved Joey Ortiz from third to shortstop, and they're like, hey, here's our new shortstop. It's not Willy Adames. They strike out a lot still against lefties. 24%. They have a 600 team OPS this year. It's just not obviously the biggest sample, but they also have the second most at bats this year against left-handed pitching. So I like Mitchell Parker. I don't love him. I do think there's been a little luck attached to his name. Obviously, the matchup is what it is. Miami is going to be a bottom feeding team. But you said it on the show last night. They've only struck out 20% of the time against lefties. That's 25th in Major League Baseball. So, like, I think
small
that there's
sample size, obviously, but
small sample. I just feel at this point there might be a little more strikeout equity attached to Erod. So I'd probably lean that direction ahead of Parker, because especially when you're playing on DraftKings, you need strikeouts. Like that's the name of the game. Who can get me the most strikeouts?
Do you make of anything with Edward Cabrera starting now for Miami here today?
In which direction? Because I don't think he throws enough pitches.
Okay.
To like, I like the pitcher. I think he's a pretty good arm talent. Like, lefties gave him a lot of fits last year, but he did not throw a lot of pitches in his like final start coming off the blister injury. So
Sure.
I'd probably stay away. But obviously there's strikeouts.
A strikeout pitcher. Obviously, we know that there's some strikeouts in the in that lineup for Washington. Sure. Again, I would still give Newcomb a look, but minus 160 favorite is Boston on the road here today at $6,300. Looked slightly better against St. Louis than he did against Baltimore. Seems like he's trying to be a ground ball pitcher. Like that he got to 94 pitches in that game, just as like a straight value play. But again, I don't really think I'm getting to much else here. What's your take on Taj Bradley? Again, you kind of went over some of the numbers. Wind is blowing slightly out tonight in Tampa Bay. It's warm. We know that ballpark at least has shown, we think, to be more offensive than StatCast is suggesting it is. But does that worry you at all with going Taj Bradley today?
Look, I really like Taj Bradley's stuff, and I think he is a guy that can generate a lot of swings and misses. And there's obvious upside here. Taj Bradley's primary issue last year was home runs and fly balls, and both sides of the plate, like 176 ISO allowed to lefties last year, 171 ISO allowed to righties, and that was expected ISO of 195. And it makes sense, right? Home ballpark masking a lot of probably what could have been worse for Taj Bradley. He does not have that at his disposal anymore. He's playing at Yankee Stadium, the Yankee Stadium of the South, right? Like, he is playing in George Steinbrenner Field, and it's a small ballpark in warm weather. Like, it's just so, while I think he probably matches up with the Braves at the best possible time in the Braves season because they've been so bad, he is still going through a lineup with a lot of power that isn't just going to go a full year without hitting home runs. Like, we're going to look up at the end of the year, Austin Riley's going to have 30 home runs, and Matt Olson's going to have 30 home runs. And, like, when you factor in that plus the home run propensity that Bradley has, it's a little scary.
Okay. Any other starting pitchers? Pod is in here saying he likes little sprinkles of Festa today. We talked Festa, obviously, minor league numbers last year, like big strikeout guy, but didn't really show it at the major league level all that much. Detroit's lineup's been pretty solid to start the year, but now they're a slight home favorite. If you're picking a 6K pitcher today, where does Festa rank for you?
If I am picking a 6K pitcher, if you are forcing me to do this, he would probably be second behind Newcomb.
Okay.
And I don't love that. Detroit literally ranks number 1 in OPS against right-handed pitching, so like that's not a fun matchup. But all the peripherals for Dave Festa last year looked pretty good. So second, I think Newcomb is definitely the guy. I think Cabrera's pitch count is worry. Kahanowitz doesn't miss bats. Stroman might not even pitch, and you would never use him.
Yeah.
And Herman Marquez, salute to you for still sticking around, but
Hey, you know what? Doesn't have to deal with Jackson Merrill in that lineup, but that's
fair. That's fair.
All right, let's go to catcher. Last night we were like, yeah, we'll just see who's in or out of lineups here today as we try to like navigate it. And Blake Sabol did in fact make the lineup today.
Look at you. We've only talked about it for the last week, and we finally made it.
Okay, I've called him to be in the lineup twice. Okay, this just feels like an easy plug for me. We don't need to get crazy with it. Like Sabol versus Martin at $2,300. Red Sox, a Red Sox double. No, okay, this is Omar Narvaez. We got Omar Narvaez.
Yeah, because they lost. They lost
Corey Lee.
Lee.
They just didn't want to call up Kyle Teal. They just want to save that service time.
I was gonna say it's gotta be. All
right. Well, I'm all in on just clicking Blake Sabol at $2,300, but obviously there are other options for us to go here today. If you want to touch upon those for us here.
I mean, there's not like great options, but if you're spending up, Logan O'Hoppe is clearly in that, in a good matchup. Ronel Blanco regression train is all aboard the Ronel Blanco regression train.
Big favorites today. It makes me kind of want to bet the A's a little bit.
You mean the
Angels?
Angels.
Yeah.
I mean, Ronel Blanco's looked really bad, but also he was lucky last year. So like, it's kind of like the full circle moment that we were looking like idiots last year, being like, yeah, well, the numbers kind of look bad, but it's like Tyler Anderson, right? Another guy who was just like beating us up every fifth day because we were like, it's gonna turn.
Yep. His sixth fit has to play eventually.
Well, it turned. So if you want to spend up with O'Hoppe, obviously monster power, just good player in general. Dingler's looked really good if you want to go against Festa. Righties had good power numbers against Festa last year. You can play Jeffers against Olsen if you wanted to. Gabriel Moreno is a good hitter against lefties. Jose Quintana making his debut. Still looks like Grey Worm from Game of Thrones. The field is playing Mets catcher.
Yeah.
Which, makes sense if Torrens. I don't think we've gotten Mets lineup yet, but if Torrens is in the lineup, that's where the field is gravitating to as well. And if he's not, Sanger will be.
Yeah, Torrens is the cheapest play, $2,600 for ownership. Will Smith is the highest projected rostered. It's him and O'Hoppe. Will Smith is a little over 10%. O'Hoppe and Langoliers coming in around 9%, so just tasting some home run power there. But if you're going to be spending up at catcher, I mean, we generally don't. It's usually worked out for us this year, but there are some options for you. First base, Ohtani, you got the Polar Bear at 57, Bryce Harper 51. The StatCast numbers for Pete Alonso this year.
Yeah, dude, he is having a sick year.
I saw someone tweet it out, and then I had to go look myself to make sure it wasn't like photoshopped. I'll just share it on the screen here for everybody so they can just see how ridiculous that they are. But this is it's a lot of red.
Do for anyone that, I don't know if anyone's colorblind out there, I don't know, like, do you see red? Do colorblind people see red?
Even if you didn't see red, know that you want this bar to go as far to the right as possible.
Their eyes work so they can see. Yeah. Even if you're colorblind.
I don't think I can zoom it in anymore without breaking the screen here.
No, yeah, don't worry about it. But it is all to the. It is
like this. This is everything that you're looking for. Strikeout. Pete Alonso's strikeout rate is 9% this year.
Yeah, it's sick. He wants to get paid he wants to get that long-term extension.
His bat speed is 76.6 miles per hour. He's in the 100th percentile of expected WOBA, expected slugging, exit velocity, barrel rate, hard hit rate.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Polar bears like the cold, so he's he's been good in cold weather.
Yeah, I gotta go back to sharing the screen that we were on here.
And now he doesn't have to be cold. He can warm up a little bit with a fly ball pitcher in JP Sears, who allows a lot of elevated baseballs in a park that you cannot elevate baseballs in. You cannot. Last year Oakland is home park, John. JP Sears had a 217 expected ISO to righties. And he only struck them out 17% of the time. He's cooked in this ballpark.
This feels like a great time to just plug in Pete Alonso and move along to a different position. He is the highest rostered first baseman.
Yep.
But ownership at this position is kind of spread out, right? Like he's not this. I get it. Maybe it has to do with it being a 12 or 13 games, 12 game slate at this point. I thought coming in that we'd have him at more than 11%, though. Didn't you? Didn't you think this would be like a auto play for everybody today?
Only thing I'd say is one, it definitely will be in single entry and like cash games and stuff. I think it will probably be in like the 20s. But two, there are 12 games, right? Yeah. So it is a big slate to spread. I don't disagree. I also wonder if people are buying into the ballpark. It's
got a 10 total.
I don't disagree. And it took us a while to get there. Actually, down to 9.5, by the way.
Okay.
Which I'm shocked.
It didn't take us a while to get there. We were talking about it.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. And it's still not. We're in. I was the one not in, and you sent me all the data like, hey, buddy. Or I sent you the data, and you were like, listen, an MLB pitcher told me that this is a minor league park. And then it was. I don't disagree. I think Alonso is clearing away the best first baseman on the board. I think the Mets are the best stack on the board. The team total is the best on the day. The run total is the best on the day. Like everything lines up for the Mets. But I do agree. I do think that the ownership is a little lower than I thought. But when you look at that stuff, it's large field ownership, and I fully expect it to be probably into the 20s for Alonso.
Yeah, no, I was a little bit just surprised to see because the way we talked about the way the numbers looked, the way everything seemed like it was lining up.
Right.
If not, though, like give me a 10%, 11% Pete Alonso tonight.
Agreed.
I'm all in there. Working our way down this list. Again, you can play Ohtani. Obviously, it is lefty, but not that matters with Shohei Ohtani. You have Harper versus Palante at $5,100 here. Matt Olson, we talk about power and in that ballpark. Wind is blowing out 10 miles an hour in Tampa today. So $4,800 against Bradley's there. What are your thoughts sort of on the rest of this first base top half?
Dude, I'm telling you, that is not like there's a lot of scenarios I could see happening. One of which Taj Bradley has 10 strikeouts. The other one is he has 8 strikeouts and allows 4 solo home runs. Because we've also seen that last year he had one of those starts where I think it was against your Red Sox. He had like 10 strikeouts and allowed 5 home runs in Fenway Park. And that's like the Taj Bradley experience. So I like Olson. I like Harper. Last year, Payante was reverse splits. This year, so far, it's a very, very small sample. It's been regular split. Lefties crush him. Righties haven't. And last year was the opposite. So I do like Bryce Harper. Do like Olson, like Goldie leading off if you think that game plays or if the weather breaks better, and then it's some value names. I do think Soderstrom is a little bit interesting. Obviously the Griffin Canning thing has been weird to see. Everything has looked better for Griffin Canning. He is throwing. I mentioned this on the pre-show. Griffin Canning just spamming sliders, John.
Yeah.
Last year, Griffin Canning threw 24% sliders. This year, he's throwing 44% sliders. He has almost 2x his slider output. His fastball down from 37% to 30%. And last year was a negative 9.2 pitch value on Fangraphs, the fastball. His slider was also bad, but not that bad. So if Griffin Canning at all reverts back to the pitcher that couldn't get lefties out last year, Soderstrom has a really strong case to hit some home runs tonight.
Sure. No, I agree with you. And again, I guess the approach with Canning is basically like, don't throw the straight ball so much,
Yep.
like make them chase, and maybe they can't square it up on you. So makes a lot of sense there. Mid-tier range, Christian Walker is getting some love. The Astros in general are kind of a little bit of a popular team here today. We're still in on Tampa Bay. I know we joked about it on the preview show, but like Jonathan Aranda hitting cleanup at $3,800. Like, yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. Sign me up there. And same thing with Torkelson hitting cleanup today at 37. I like both of those plays a lot today for not spending up for Pete Alonso, which I am. But if you're multi-lineuping, you and I talk about this a lot. We play single entry, so we have to make tough decisions when it comes to our lineup construction because we're not out there maxing these contests or playing whatever. So most slates you'll find me playing like Aranda probably at first base, but not today. Today I'm going Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I completely agree on the Aranda front. Something we talked about how Bryce Elder is not a good pitcher. Didn't make the team out of spring, got called up, looked fine. But when you look at the numbers last year against lefties, and this is a 438 pitch sample, 187 ISO allowed, 401 WOBA. 9% swinging strike rate is terrible. 11% launch angle. He was not good against lefties. So, it was a small 123 plate appearance sample for Aranda last year. 207 ISO, John. 284 expected ISO against right-handed pitching last year. You've said it since day one. Like big dude, like monster looking dude.
Strong looking,
Yeah, and the numbers really back it up that he's going to be super powerful, especially in this ballpark. So he would be my favorite. I like the torque shout. I don't hate Nathaniel Lowe when you factor in Edward Cabrera's inability to get lefties out at times. I think all three of those guys make a ton of sense in the value tier.
Anybody lower? Because
Wegeman. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Getting the it's him, and then it's Alonso as the top two rostered first baseman today. He's got dual positional eligibility. That's probably helping him out there. But what is it about this spot particularly that everyone's riding Wegeman today?
I think that this was the most bizarre thing I saw today. Because this guy has stayed at the top of the ownership all day long. It has not moved. Mitchell Parker didn't have great numbers against righties last year. 173 ISO, 198 expected ISO, 316 WOBA, 341 expected WOBA. So did run really lucky. This year, same thing. He has a 0 ISO. This is what I was talking about earlier with how lucky he's been. He has a 0 ISO allowed to righties, 185 expected ISO, 271 WOBA, 377 expected WOBA to righty bats, 273 BABIP. It's been very lucky, a very lucky start for Mitchell Parker. So I get it from that perspective, and it's a price with multi-position eligibility baked in. But if you're playing him at first, it feels a little opportunity cost to me. Wouldn't you rather play him? If you were deciding between him or a Mets player at their respective positions, you're probably, and I know one costs way more than the other, you feel way more confident with Pete Alonso than you do Mark Vientos right now.
I agree.
So,
yeah.
I get it because I do think Mitchell Parker's been a little bit lucky, but it's not enough for me to play this guy if he's going to be this highly rostered. I don't get that.
I agree. All right, second base position. Altuve at $5,200. Again, I'm not meaning to completely ignore the Yankees game, but weather-wise doesn't feel great. Jazz's $5,700 feels expensive.
It is.
So I think I'd rather look at Altuve, who's around 10-11% here tonight. Brandon Lau, as we always talk about, a guy that we joked about it, but no one's playing him, right? No one's playing these Tampa Bay Rays power lefties today. So I'd rather spend $4,900 on Brandon Lau than really spending up on anybody else here.
Tyler Soderstrom hitting third tonight for the Athletics, by the way. So pretty good looking lineup there. Jake Wilson moving up, John, hitting sixth tonight.
Dude,
You
I
said
told
it.
you, he should be their leadoff hitter, but we'll take it.
As long as there's progression, right? As long as there's progression up the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Altuve. Just obviously tough to elevate the ball against Kahanowitz. Just super heavy ground baller. I would probably take a shot on Alex Bregman or Brandon Lau before I play Altuve. I don't hate Altuve, but I do like Bregman and Brandon Lau more.
Yeah.
I would say.
No, that's fine. Again, I'm definitely in on Lau given the power upside for him. We talked Edman and his ridiculous career 200 plus ISO versus lefties at $4,700 against Boyd today. Warm weather, wind blowing out, everything playing up for the Dodgers here. Boyd's been good, but now he's facing the Dodgers, so that can certainly change some things for you there. And then it's the value. Acuna is getting a lot of ownership today. Expected to start with a lefty on the mound over Beatty. You got him at $2,900.
Mets lineup.
Actually, that lineup just came out.
Just dropped.
Is he in the lineup?
He is. Hitting 7th.
Siri in the lineup hitting 9th.
Oh no, we're getting him. We asked the question last night. We'll save it, but bat flip. Yes, no, maybe. Yeah, it's a good lineup for the Mets too. Starling Marte hitting 4th.
Cleanup hitting DH today, yeah.
Oh, less injury risk for Starling Marte at DH. You love to see that. Yeah, I mean, Luis Angel looks good. So 2,900 hasn't been great. Obviously, the stolen base equity is there. Really good team total, as we mentioned. And if you want to play Soto or Lindor or Alonso or all of them, there's a reason why Jose Torrens and Acuna are popular because they fit the stack.
Yeah, they need the value. Yeah.
You need the value. So
you play Sabal, you play Acuna here, and now you have 2 guys under 3K in your lineup to build around. So
yep,
I'm with you there. Are we going Kyron Paris? Number 2 in the league in F WAR right now, Kyron Paris.
Of course. Do you just wake up? You wake up, you get your Dunkin' coffee, and then you hop online and you just type in Kyron Paris, latest Kyron Paris articles or stats. Yeah. That's how you start your day.
I like to get angry early in the morning. So
yeah, I think it really sets your day up after that. I mean, the first person we talked about Logan O'Hoppe, and you immediately talked about how big of a favorite the Angels were today. Because how bad Ronald Blanco has been.
No, the Astros are favorites. That's why I'm saying I think I want to bet the Angels. Astros are minus 140 today.
Angels are smoking hot, dude. He's been good.
Their entire outfield each hit 2 home runs last
night. That's correct. They did. Yeah, I mean, I know he's hitting 7th, but you will not find players at this price that are doing what he does ever, right? Unless it's Corbin Carroll from 2 years ago during his rookie year, and they didn't move him
for 2-3 months. Yeah.
So Kyron Paris looks great. He had 1 bad game. Baseball, right? That 3 for 10. You're in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, I think
everybody in their lineup had a hit yesterday except for Kyron Paris. But
who's been their best player?
Yep. Yeah, good value for him. Luis Garcia is 35. I definitely don't mind going there if you want either. Otto Lopez is pretty good if you're not in on Mitchell Parker.
Agreed.
$3,700 for him. Bryson Stott leading off today.
Yes.
3,900 is a pretty good spot for Stott. I know you mentioned last year Plante was a reverse splits guy, but they're going to be throwing a whole lot of lefties early in that line. Is Stott leading off because Schwarber is not leading off?
Do you want to hear the Piante? They're hitting Schwarber 4th, by the way.
Okay.
Do you want to hear the Piante this year lefty numbers?
Sure.
438 ISO, 458 or 415 WOBA, 458 expected WOBA. It's a 70 pitch sample. It's very small. That is a massive number.
It is.
You know what? The BABIP is 200 too. So has just been bad. He has just been bad. So there's a lot of lefties in this lineup. 1, 3, 4, 6.
Yeah.
Pretty good stack. 1, 3, 4. Stott, Harper, Schwarber.
I like it.
Doesn't look too bad.
Nope. That's probably all I got here in a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Third base we go. We mentioned you can play Wagaman there at third as the value play. Vientos is getting a lot of ownership here today. Vientos is among the highest rostered overall players on the entire day, which we also, I think is suspicious because he's been very bad. Everything that Pete Alonso's StatCast page was, Vientos is the opposite. It's all to the left. It's all blue. He's not making contact. He's got slow bat speed. Nothing is looking good for Mark Vientos. And 20% of the field is saying this is our champion today. Ready to go to battle with Mark Vientos.
I mean, this is the part of the program where you tell yourself it's been too small of a sample for it to matter, right? At least that's what you try to tell yourself.
But there's no glimmer of anything that looks positive here.
This is 100% based on what he did against lefties last year. Right?
Yeah.
100%. 246 ISO, 375 WOBA.
It's really only what he did in like the final 2 months of the year. Right? 3 months of the year. He got called up and then went ham for, the second half of the season.
He was really good. He was really, really, really good.
But he wasn't really good the first.
I get it. I get what you're saying. He's also was projected to hit fourth, and now he's hitting sixth.
Yeah.
So he was kind of replaced in the stack by someone probably a little easier to get to in Starling Marte. Yeah. So if I'm playing a Mets stack, I'm not just writing Mark Vientos off. How about that?
Sure.
If I'd also rather, if I'm only one-offing Mets, he wouldn't be the first guy I'd play at the same time, right? He fits a Mets stack well because he's pretty cheap, and he obviously had that season he had against lefties last year. But he's also not a guy I'm just looking to one-off because how bad. You are playing him in a Mets stack because you think that the Mets, everything about the Mets is true, right? Team total looks great game environment, home runs will be hit, he can hit home runs. But I'd rather play Alonso in a one-off. I'd rather play Soto in a one-off as a one-off. Yeah. Lindor as a one-off.
Yeah. His other issue is he's also whiffing a lot. He's swinging and missing a lot too. So there's just
sure
not a lot. You mentioned Austin Riley and Bradley's numbers against righties and the power and things like that. I would rather one-off Riley tonight and fade the Vientos chalk. I get it; he's more expensive, but only slightly. You can sort of make that work. Or Caminero, again, we're waiting for the big power boom out of Caminero in that ballpark. We got one homer already. It was an oppo shot. So $4,200 for him. I definitely I think going to either of those plays. This position is also kind of weak. And I think that has a lot to do with the ownership play as well. It's one of the reasons why, Wagaman was up there over 10% also in that conversation. So, was there anything else that you like in this spot?
Yeah, I like Boston. I like Boston a lot tonight, and I know that you are anti-Boston because they've been bad.
They've been bad, but the White Sox cure a lot of problems.
They cure a lot of problems, and Davis Martin has looked like a White Sox starting pitcher that will cure a lot of problems so far this year. Lefties have a 235 ISO. The expected ISO of 283 is insane for over 400 WOBA and over a 400 expected WOBA. And then against righties, and by the way, 5% K rate against lefties. So Rafael Devers, you, sir, don't strike out, please. 5% so far for Davis Martin against left-handed bats. And then against righties, 240 ISO, 265 expected ISO, 377 WOBA allowed, 467 WOBA or expected WOBA, 10% strikeout rate. So if you're talking about like teams that have the highest ceilings, I would say Boston is probably right up there with anybody on the slate. Like, I think that Boston is probably my top pivot off of the Mets if I was to pivot off the Mets, because I think that there's just so much home run equity off Davis Martin tonight. Just the amount of power that he's allowed so far. And then when you look at some of the stuff last year, he was also bad last year too. So yeah, I think Boston looks really, really good. And fortunately, you could play Bregman at second. And if you wanted to play Devers at third, that helps too.
Sure. Yano Suarez home with a lefty in Quintana, $4,800, also with some power upside in that spot there.
Yep.
Anything else at third?
Yeah, McKinstry at 2,900 hitting sixth. He's been so good for Detroit.
Yeah.
And even with Glaber back just in the lineup, because how can you take his bat out of the lineup right now when he's hitting all but one game or two games this year? So yeah, I don't mind going all the way down to McKinstry. Like, I'd rather spend under 3K. I'd rather play McKinstry than I would Wagaman.
Sure. Yeah. Now you're pro-takeable 6-hitter, but it's working. So you got it there. Shortstop, Francisco Lindor is your number one guy today. We kind of identified that right away this morning. He is $5,100, but as you also said, you'd pretty much play anybody from like Volpe up, Seager up, right on the spot. So
yeah,
just kind of pick your stack, and kind of plug in. But Lindor's obviously the chalk today, almost 20% on him as well, going to the Lindor spot. Mid-range for you, if you're less in on Parker, does Xavier Edwards leading off at 42, or you mentioned Boston, Trevor Story hitting fifth at 41?
Yeah, I like both those names, and Geraldo Perdomo as well. I think all three of those guys, like in a row, make a ton of sense. Perdomo's been great, hitting near the top of the lineup. Power has been a little surprising lately for Perdomo, and the speed is obviously there too. So I like Perdomo. Xavier Edwards, super fast, super good on base guy. Again, Mitch Parker has been pretty lucky. And then Trevor Story, as you mentioned, another like surprising, like, not that Trevor Story is slow. I think sometimes maybe with all the injuries, you forget that he is like a pretty quality base stealer.
Yeah, he sold 20 plus bags while in Colorado, right?
Like, no, right. But it's just the injuries, right? Like the accumulation, you're just like, man, kind of forgot that this is the guy that can he can do both. He can hit home runs and he can swipe bags. And that's why Boston paid him all that money. So yeah, I mean, a healthy Trevor Story is really good, a really good injection to this Boston lineup. Loved his spot in the lineup.
Yep, agreed with you. Value again, Jacob Wilson at 33. I do like him. I do think Jacob Wilson is a guy where if the A's get guys on base, Jacob Wilson puts a lot of balls in play and a lot of good contact. So could be some cheap RBI opportunities from him now hitting sixth tonight at $3,300. Super good. You can play Acuna here, who's getting some ownership love. That's probably it for me, though.
Yeah, I don't got anything else.
Okay. Outfield, the usual conversation we have. You can really spend up on any of them, but your highest rostered outfielder today is Yordan Alvarez. Numbers look ugly, but
he's always rostered. He's always rostered.
$5,600. Everybody's playing some Yordan Alvarez here today.
I mean, he looks good, but I don't like. Are people like Kahanowitz is obviously? I'm not. How can I say this? I'm not sitting here saying I think Jack Kahanowitz is like a really good pitcher. And the ground balls haven't necessarily been there this year yet, John. Like, it's been a higher fly ball rate, but he had a 57% ground ball rate last year. Like, he's only made 2 starts in the minor leagues, 49, 52, 63, 49, 52, 62, and then 57 in the majors last year. Like, this is not a guy that gives up a lot of fly balls. Now he does give up home runs when he does get the ball lifted off him, but am I wrong to say there's like a pretty big list of these upper echelon outfielders that I prefer over Jordan, especially if we're talking about like a chalky version of him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm I have a Mets stack. Yeah, Don, that's where we're at. We're playing Mets. I mean, you want to get to, I'm assuming it's because it's a lefty on Soto. That some people are less inclined. He's still 10%. It's Jordan and Soto, and Ohtani is your top three, but they're all sort of the same ownership. Jared Duran actually has a little bit more now that I update it than everybody, slightly 5,300. He's starting to come around. Brent Rooker though under 10%. Butler's under 10%. I mean, there's some good value here. I like Kyle Schwarber, and no one's playing the Phillies here today. That's all kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I think basically everyone you just mentioned, if the weather holds in New York or improves, like Judge is an elite play at 6,500. I was just looking at some Matthew Boyd stuff. Dodgers have the second highest implied team total. Matthew Boyd's expected ERA is 4. His xFIP is over almost 4 as well. He has a 0 ERA through 2 games. I mean, and now has to face the Dodgers. I don't, in a park that plays to power in LA. So I don't know. I'm a little less bullish on Jordan than the field. I'm good not going there. I do love the Jarren Duran play. He's looked great out there lately. The speed is back too. He is running because he's getting on base again, obviously. So yeah, I told you I'm very bullish on Boston. I think that's my top stack after the Mets, truthfully. And not that they're not chalky because they're getting a lot more ownership throughout the day. But yeah, I think the Mets look great, or the Red Sox look great.
Red Sox, yep. Mid-tier range. Where were you looking to go here?
I'll just throw out Teoscar. I mean, 5K. We know he's a lefty masher. I know he's at 5K, and it's like probably not exactly mid-tier, but
yeah. I mean, him, Weiler, that whole kind of range there is fine.
I mean, if you are playing against David Festa, Riley Green at 44, Jung-Hoo Lee at 46, hitting third looks really good. I do think Marcell Ozuna has been one of the few Braves that has looked really, really good at the dish. The power hasn't necessarily followed, but he has been on base a ton this year. Marcell Ozuna has a 500 on base percentage this year. Talk about a guy who is just always doing something productive on the field. And I mean, again, like we're talking about Taj Bradley, who is a good pitcher, but also does allow a lot of power in a small ballpark. So I am definitely a fan of Ozuna at 46. Last year we were paying near 6K for this guy. Like he was a 6K player all of last year. So, and then I mean, look, the Mets are right there. Nimmo at 42, hitting in the middle of the lineup, and Starling Marte 39. Now your highest rostered outfielder of the day. Like it's going to be hard not to jam Starling Marte because he's been good against lefties, and he's so cheap.
Yeah, I agree. And he's DHing, so he gets focus on hitting. All that's good. Again, I don't mind chasing some of the Angels bats. I still think that Luis Robert hitting second against Newcomb would be something I'd be willing as like a one-off play. Because again, Newcomb's not great, and Robert, has some power there. Let's see. Any other values?
Carpenter at the same price as Luis Robert. Another just power bat.
Hitting second off Festa there. Can play Kyron Paris down here. Jordan Walker hitting second today.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting.
Nathaniel Lowe scratched tonight, by the way.
Oh.
So we'll get some Josh Bell in the lineup there.
Yep.
Austin Slater sitting third.
We nailed that one. That was yeah.
Yeah. Meisner hitting sixth if you want another lefty against Elder there.
You can punt Kelnick at 2,100. He's been bad, but he's in the lineup hitting seventh.
Yeah. I mean, Riley Cruz, Kelnick. If you just think Atlanta hits, they finished that game at 1 a.m. last night, and then they flew to Tampa. So
yeah, dude, it is a complete large field tournament. take a couple shots on guys because they can hit home runs, and Taj Bradley allows power.
Sure. All right, let's get a lineup build here. Do you want to start with pitching or start with our Mets stack?
Let's do Mets. Let's do our Mets stack first.
Okay,
Let's do
so
our
we
Mets
got
stack first.
Marte in the outfield, Lindor, Alonso. And then do we do a 4 stack with Soto? Do we do a Acuna at like second?
I think the Acuna one makes the most sense. Price and position.
Okay.
Have a great weekend, Don.
We'll do Sayball down here just to plug in the value. All right, 6K. We were obviously going to ride the Pivetta. And then we're going to need a couple more value plays to get this going, I guess.
You could play Kyron Paris in the outfield.
Yeah.
Kerry Carpenter in the outfield.
I did McKinstry, Paris. Then we got, what was your mid tier? You wanted
I like
Erod?
I like Erod in tournaments. Yeah.
We can play whoever we want now.
Quite literally every single
You can
player.
still just play Soto if you wanted to in his 5 stack.
I mean, the Mets look better than everyone, right?
Yeah. What is it, 86 get you? 86 does not really get you anything there. So, excuse me. So, yeah. If you want a 5 stack Mets in the game with a 10 total, you can do it. Pivetta, Erod, Sayball, Alonso, Acuna, McKinstry, Lindor, Marte, Paris, and Soto. What was their? What did we say Ozuna was? 46. We don't really have
46
there.
Why would you say no Soto, Don? Just curious.
Probably lefty.
I am not that Juan Soto again. First off, JP Sears against lefties last year, 170 ISO allowed is pretty bad, especially like left on left crime. Juan Soto against left-handed pitching last year, John.
Yeah.
272 ISO, 297 expected ISO, 413 WOBA, 459 expected WOBA. Like top tier does not matter the split numbers. Like
it would obviously feel bad to stack Mets and not stack Soto and then watch him hit, a couple homers once they get into the A's bullpen. But if you wanted to not play McKinstry and Soto, you can upgrade that to Riley Ozuna.
Right.
And obviously we kind of think that's I thought we weren't gonna put him in, is what he's saying. No okay. Soto question mark, like we weren't gonna play. I would still play Soto, but again, there's more home run equity with a Riley Ozuna 2-man than a McKinstry Soto, I guess technically. So a couple of different ways that you can go. He's using Newcomb. Yeah, if you wanted to go all the way down, which we did kind of talk about, I like it. I like Reese Olson. If you just want to go down to Reese Olson,
you can move up from Kyron or get back to Soto.
Go right back to Soto and just keep Riley.
Yep.
So could go Pivetta, Olson, Sayball, Acuna, Riley, Lindor, Marte, Paris, and Soto. All the dollars right there.
All the dollars.
So guys, we appreciate you. Keith's got your playbook live over on Fantasy Time. The ownership's updated there as well. You know where to find us in the Discord. If you're not yet in that Discord, you're not yet a Fantasy Time member, 7-day free trial still live. FantasyAlarm.com/win. Good luck with your weekend and Friday lineups. We'll be back Sunday night for the Monday preview show, everybody. Until then, we'll talk to you later.